What are you using those flowers for?
This was one of two of the big floral arrangements from our commitment celebration that we did in Vegas years and years ago.
So
it's very
do you think
big.
we can use the flowers to like put in front of the headstones? No, really, I think that would look really good.
This is a weird one.
Hey friends, it's Kody from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is Monday, January 13th, 2025. I have finally figured out what the storyline is for Meri Brown this season. Hear me out. Each episode, we have seen Meri do something where she gets rid of something connected to Kody and her sister wives. Meri has stated that she has been in therapy and has done therapy. Meri has stated that she is processing her divorce and walking through the stages of grief. So let's kind of talk about this just for a hot second, okay? Last week, Meri cut up a quilt that she had made for Kody to send him back some scraps. The week before that, she broke a sign that had her and Kody's name on it and their address in Flagstaff. She spoke about wanting to destroy the commitment ceremony mission statement that she owns. And this week, she placed flowers that were left from that ceremony that she kept for whatever reason, and she placed them on the lawn next to tombstones to decorate for Halloween for her inn. And then it hit me. All of this is revenge for Kody melting down the ring. It is Meri also symbolically letting go and destroying everything she had of Kody's. Now, in therapy, I don't know if any of you have done cognitive behavioral therapy or done therapy for trauma or getting like through a breakup or managing grief or pain, but there are different techniques that therapists can have you do in order to sort of symbolically let go of something that has been weighting you down. And to be clear, like symbolically getting rid of something doesn't change those things that are in your heart or the memories surrounding them. But it's just sort of a way for you to add a memory in your life that finalizes and ends whatever that was that you were going through. So sometimes there's different things you can do. If you have photographs, they might say, why don't you start a fire and just throw the photographs in the fire and say what's on your mind while you're doing the fire. Or if you have letters from them, or if you have, something, just have a bonfire kind of thing. Or another thing they do is say you're going through trauma of someone dying and you have things that you want to get off your chest, or it's a breakup and you can't speak to the person. And a therapist might say, write a letter to your loved one or to your ex. And then once you're done with writing the letter, burn the letter. Sort of like, this is what I have, and then this is symboling that I'm done with that feeling. Again, it doesn't mean that you're actually done with it. It's just, again, sort of this symbolic way for you to put an end on whatever that was. It can help you with closure. It can help you just sort of process through, and it can just give you what you need to be able to move on. Healing from trauma and healing from abuse is like never something that happens with one event. Getting rid of your things doesn't end the pain, but it definitely is a way to move on. And what Meri is doing this season is symbolically and physically and literally moving on by getting rid of Kody and destroying Kody. Maybe in revenge for what he did to her wedding ring, but also as a way for her to heal. Not every single woman that leaves a marriage is going to do what Meri's doing. In fact, with Christine, her moving on was very different. It wasn't about destroying what she had with Kody, but she definitely got rid of some of the things that she had with Kody. But for Christine, she, instead of sort of grieving what she had with Kody, because I think they left at different places mentally. For Christine, it was once she left, it was having the freedom to try new things. the freedom to explore the world, the freedom to go on a first date of her choosing without being set up by someone at church, the freedom of having an alcoholic beverage, the freedom of getting a tattoo, the freedom of making her own choices. So Christine's leaving and making choices that she didn't get to make because of the constraints of the marriage she was in. And Meri, on the other hand, is leaving and trying to sort of bury everything that she went through. So let's kind of talk about that.
We had one on each of the pillars at our commitment celebration. And also look at us now. So it's like there's no point of keeping this. We're doing this whole big cemetery situation out in the front yard. So I think it'll be perfect to use these as flowers for the headstones.
Meri is an interesting person, and she's an interesting character in life. And the way that she handles situations is unique to other people on this show. And I think that Meri has been humiliated a lot by Kody on the show. And I think that the years of humiliation that she went through, where he was just so degrading and said such awful things about her and made everyone believe she was dangerous and scary and evil and violent. She could have been some of those things, but I think a lot of those things were a response to what she was enduring with Kody. When you're stuck in fight or flight and survival mode, you are not at your best. And the way that we respond in trauma is not always indicative of who we are as humans. And Meri even says in this episode that I was never really able to be who I am because of the people I was around. I was never able to engage in who I was and be free to be who I was because I was surrounded by people that didn't necessarily accept me for who I was. I mean, how is it when you're in a faith and everyone is demanding that you're being perfect and you need to stuff down your emotions? And if Meri has a very big personality and she's, a strong woman with opinions and feelings and not afraid to say them, and that's not endorsed in this culture or cult, she's not going to be liked. And then she's the first wife, and the first wife is always not going to be liked because she's got the legal marriage. She got him first. She got him before everyone else. There's the first wife syndrome they deal with, where the husbands overcompensate because of all the trauma they cause the wives. And the first wives can get depressed and they can get angry and they can deal with so much depression because of all of the ongoing trauma that happens to them every single time a new person comes in or a baby is born. And so, yeah, I think she's had a lot that she's had to endure on the show. And so now she finally doesn't have to worry about protecting Kody anymore. And so it's like she now is, Christine said things and just got it off her chest. She just said her truth and what she went through. And Meri, she takes a different approach. She's actually a little bit exhausting, if I'm going to be honest, because she really does sit in the victim of it all. And she is a victim of polygamy, but she also victimized others. But I see sometimes a level of narcissism, even with Meri, where it's like, yes, Kody was terrible to you. And yes, all these things happened, but you have a responsibility as well. And you did 100% hurt people along the way. So I think this is really just revenge because Kody humiliated her for so long. And so this season is about humiliating him by taking the things that mattered to her and him when they were together, the commitment ceremony, the signs she made, the flowers, this quilt he wanted. And she's destroying things little by little by little and getting back at him and able to share her story while she's doing it. There's different ways to move on, and this is the way she chose. But if I can't say how I would react if I had gone through what she went through. I don't know how I would react to the number of years of humiliation that she endured. I didn't grow up in a polygamous cult, and I don't know what it would have been like to be in a life where you're told if you don't stay with someone, you're going to lose your eternity, right? So I don't know how I would have reacted in that respect. But what I do know about me is I wouldn't have stayed with him as long as she did. And so maybe part of this deconstruction she's going through is also trying to help her unpack why she stayed for as long as she did. But if Meri is going to start healing, in my opinion, and I am not a psychologist, she needs to also deconstruct the faith and why it was that she stayed as long as she did and felt like she had to stay. And instead of saying like, it was my commitment, it was this, it was that, maybe if she just said, I believe something that was wrong and false, I held on to something that was misleading and damaging. My faith is what caused me so much heartache and pain. This cult is the root cause of so much. Because yes, Kody's the abuser, but Kody lives within the construct of the cult and they don't exist without the other. So let's continue.
After I moved to Flagstaff, I did do a tree, I think the first year, and nobody was around to see it. So I quit decorating.
It was just a little while before COVID hit, and COVID really screwed up everything. And it was really sad to me because the younger kids really counted on those traditions and those get-togethers, and they really wanted them. And the older kids, some of the older kids and the moms weren't interested in it the same way.
So Meri stops decorating because no one ever comes to her house and no one's going to come and see it. Okay. Christine says that Meri was always a great decorator. Janelle reminisces about Meri's decoration and how much of a creative outlet she got out of it. And Robyn makes herself the victim again and says that, really no one came over there because no one wanted to do those family traditions anymore. And nobody really cared because, the other moms and the kids, they just didn't see a need, especially those older kids, God forbid, they didn't want to come home for Christmas. But even so, Robyn, when you did have Christmas, they had it at Christmas. They had a Christmas at Christine's house. They did have it at Meri's house once, but then every other time it was always at Robyn's house because that's where Kody wanted to be. It's like Robyn's like blaming Meri and the other people for ruining her kids' lives when she wasn't even the one going over to their place ever. She didn't call Meri back. She didn't want to hang out with them. She's the one that canceled Christmas, for crying out loud. She's the one that convinced Kody that he couldn't be safe with his kids because they had called her and accused her of making the COVID rules. And then that turned into a 3-year fight, which ultimately resulted in Garrison taking his life. I mean, that wasn't the only reason Garrison took his life, but the fight and the fallout did not help Garrison's mental health. And so for Robyn to act like the victim here again in this situation, God, it must be exhausting to be Robyn. You're always the victim. You never, I mean, she could have just said, yeah, Meri always loved to decorate, but instead she makes it like Christine and Janelle's fault again for ruining her life and Meri's life and her life and the kids' lives. Meri is then, so in all honesty, if she wants to humiliate Kody and Robyn by getting rid of all of this stuff, have at it, because they're exhausting.
I wasn't being my true authentic self because the people that I was around, I wasn't in alignment with. So empowering to just be able to be me. Like I can laugh and I can decorate, and who I am as a person is celebrated and appreciated.
When Meri has often said that there was more to the story, what I always feel like she was saying is that someone else is telling a narrative about me that isn't true, or this is the narrative of the show, or this is Kody's narrative about me. And if you listen to some of the kids and their complaints about Meri, and then you listen to Kody and what he says, they basically regurgitate his complaints and they think they're thinking it themselves. Because when you have a narcissistic parent, they generally will scapegoat someone, and she definitely became his scapegoat for a very long time, and the example and the reason why this family was a mess or whatever. He put all of the blame on her and to deflect from his own behavior. And so if she needs to try to rewrite her narrative by showing a different side of herself that is better and she thinks is indicative of who she is, that's awesome. I think that Kody's narrative about her isn't necessarily true in that she's definitely not as evil as he would say. But I do think that because he is such a narcissist and he needs to have everything his way, that someone like Meri and her particularness would never have worked for him. And so she had to not be that way in order to appease everyone else. And she had to constantly do what he wanted and to be accepted. And if you have to like change who you are to be accepted by the people that are supposed to love you the most, you shouldn't be with them. So I'm glad that she has friends that accept her for who she is, because that's so valuable. Because you shouldn't have to be forced to be something you're not. And that's really what Kody did for a long time to her.
She's clearly said that she doesn't want to have a relationship with me. I 100% respect that. And I wish her the best. I don't wish her any ill will. And I want her to have the love that she didn't have when she was married to Kody.
I think that we repurpose these flowers very nicely in the cemetery.
Being able to be in this place now where I can feel like me again is very liberating.
She was so diplomatic about Christine, and I think she's taken the high road, honestly, with Christine. I think she could probably have said a lot of things about Christine that she could go tit for tat, you know? Christine has said some things about Meri that haven't been the greatest. And I know that Meri did things to Christine's kids that she doesn't ever talk about, right? She doesn't actually say why she's mad at Meri. Instead, she just alludes to it with little jabs or something. And Meri just says, you know what? I just want her to be happy, and I want her all to just find the happiness she couldn't have with Kody and the love she couldn't have with Kody. And then now that she can do what she wants in her life, she feels liberated for the first time in a long time. So there's this weird thing about leaving cults, and I've covered so many of them. And this is just kind of where I want to end things today. People do things in cults that they would never do outside of a cult. And cult behavior and the system of oppression and fight or flight and survival of the fittest and a desire to be seen by those leaders and to get the resources that you need met will put you into a place where you're going to generally become a victim, but also be a victimizer. Not one of these women is not both. They have both victimized other people, all of them. And they've all been victims of the cult, of their families, and of Kody. And some of them have been victims of each other. And there's so much hurt that has been across both sides. You know, Christine is not an innocent victim in this situation. Yes, she's a victim of Kody, but she was not innocent in how she treated some of the women. She was not innocent in how she treated some of the kids. All of these women lived in a world where corporal punishment was what they did and standard. They all knew that Kody was paddling the kids and hitting them. They all stayed with a man that was very abusive, and they did so because of their indoctrination, and they neglected their children and they neglected the needs of their children. And Christine has admitted that I wasn't the best mom. I don't think that Janelle has really come to grips with the neglect that the kids have felt and experienced yet. And I haven't really seen much of her this season. And I don't know if that's intentional. I feel like they have really ignored Janelle all season. And it's almost like her entire storyline has been cut. She hasn't had a storyline since like the second or third episode. It's wild. We are on, I think that was episode 17 last night. There's no storyline for her. And I think it's because they cut out everything to do with Garrison. So we don't really know what's going on with Janelle. But we know with Meri, she's moving on. And she's taking joy in humiliating and getting revenge against Kody in a way where she can actually be liberated and feel good about herself. Do what you have to do to get on with your life. Meri, do what you do. I wish they would just tell more of their secrets and be a little bit less like petty. I'd love to just hear more about the deconstruction side of things. But, you know, honestly, what I would love to see of the women is I want all of them to have a healthy life. I want them all to have happiness and joy. I want them to heal from the trauma. And I would love for someday all of them to be able to look at one another and just each one apologize to the other and say, like, you know what? We got through something really shitty and we did things we all regret, but I'm sorry and I forgive you. Or please forgive me, because no one here was innocent. As much as Christine hates Meri, she also fails to recognize what she did to Meri. You know, it goes both ways. Nobody here is innocent, especially in a cult like this. So what are your thoughts? Is Meri getting the sweet revenge she wants and needs? Tell me in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys.